I wanted to do this lying down because that's what I feel like we need after watching Spurs 3, Chelsea 4. Hello, everyone. Mark Donaldson, Janusz Michallik, Luis Miguel Echegaray. For the first time in 42 games since 2018, Chelsea have won in the Premier League, having trailed by multiple goals. Normally, I would start with some random question to Janusz or to LME. But where do we even begin, Janusz, with this one? I mean, it was gloriously chaotic, wasn't it?
Yeah, beautiful chaos. Yeah, this game was stupid in a way. I don't know. Give me this. Give me this every week.
Right, it was amazing.
Here's the the managers ahead of the game were probably like, okay, boys, here's what we're gonna do, right? And the players are going, nah. And in the first half at the very least, although you can understand Chelsea to a degree, right? The position they're in, unexpected, and if you go back, to what happened last season, it's a big game. We've talked about it I can understand them, but the position that Spurs were in or are in, it almost felt to me, here you are 2-0 at home, and they wanted to win that game 5-0 right away, and they paid the price for that. And oh, by the way, I think everyone has felt it, right? I mean, you just knew it because Chelsea looked by far the better team, even though they're much, well, I shouldn't say because I didn't check, but a very young team, Chelsea, 23, 24 years old average. This team looked more disciplined. And by the way, throughout the game, I just felt like every time Chelsea were attacking, they were going to score a goal, which doesn't bode well for Ange Postecoglou and Spurs.
Okay, first 10 or 12 minutes. So my 6-year-old daughter, Ava Grace, this is one of 3 little bags that she has. The other 2 are on the feet of Mark Cucurella in the first 10 minutes. You've had 45 minutes to warm up. You should know if your footwork isn't great. Get that out of here. What's going on with Cucurella?
Don't lay this on your daughter. That's your little...
Oh my word. I mean, at least have the right footwear on. 2 slips, 2 goals for Spurs. We'll get to Spurs deficiencies in a second, but Cucurella, come on now. What's he thinking here, LME?
It's ridiculous. What's he doing his pre-warm-up in? Flip-flops? Like, that you're about to play a game. You know that the surface of the pitch, and you slip so ridiculous. And then he's running up to switch them as if like it's such a massive shock that he has to do it. Like, what have you been doing for 30 minutes? It's ridiculous. But, Tottenham capitalized early on, obviously, as Janusz correctly began this by saying this was just a stupid game made really by the errors, but it was wonderful for the neutral. And, I thought Brennan Johnson started well. Dejan Kulusevski, who has always, been confident of his own abilities, helps it out to lead the way. And it was just a ridiculous mistake by Cucurella, but they continued in the first half. But Tottenham took full advantage early on, and was partly because Chelsea almost didn't have a midfield. And when Tottenham are angry and playing well, at least very much, they're very positive thinking. They're a bit like when you play Mario Kart and you pick up the star and you're just going all out. Like, that's Tottenham. And then when the star dies and then they can't do anything else, then you don't know what to do. Hence why the result continued to be. But it was a chaotic start that sort of, calm down is the wrong word, but it got less frantic and then it picked up again. But I think Cucurella's mistake of switching his cleats were, the perfect euphemism of what this game was all about, going all out without much thinking in many moments. But we're going to talk about the game for a second, but I will say this, though. I thought it was disgusting from the stadium to not make an announcement at any point for people to stop throwing garbage on the pitch when Cole Palmer was taking a corner. I mean, that added just so much controversy to the game that was already happening already. Cuti Romero had to come off, etc. I don't know. There's a lot to unpack here, Andy. Clearly, it was nuts.
It wasn't about his skate. It wasn't about his skates. Those skates are fine. It's just the way Cucurella plays. We've seen this time and time again.
He meant to do it.
This is what panic does when you're that type of player like Cucurella, right? I've seen this happen on numerous occasions with Cucurella. If you saw that first touch open, he panicked and he slipped. And second time as well, the fact that he went to get the other ones. I mean, I promise you, the first skates that he had on, those studs are as long as the second ones. Every player I've done, every player does that. Goes, because when you make too many mistakes like that, of course you go to the shoes, not necessarily just the shoes. If you watch both of them closely, I mean, he absolutely panicked. You can't get your feet right sometimes.
The fact that his new boots were there waiting for him as he came across, they kind of knew.
It's always the shoes, right?
Yes, we spoke about Spurs during the week, and we actually got an answer today, because I said to you, what Spurs are we going to see? Well, we saw every Spurs today. We saw Spurs at Man City for the first 15, 20 minutes before Jadon Sancho pulled one back. And then we saw Spurs against Bournemouth and Spurs against Ipswich for the majority of the rest of the game. It's great for neutrals. Everyone watching that, if you're not a Spurs fan, would have loved it, including the Chelsea fans. But he's not learning, is he, Ange Postecoglou? You can go 2-0 up, right? Well, fine. 2 doesn't need to become 3 or 4. You can shut up shop a little bit, but he didn't do that. He's not learning here. Why?
I don't know. It's about that. I mean, look, I mean, we all know that this is a team that you can't trust. I mean, that's the biggest problem. We've talked about it, during the week. When you like that sort of identity, I almost rather, I don't want a team that's, that one day is going to look like the world beaters, and the next day we're going to see what we've seen in the last couple of games, right? So it tells me of lack of structure, of lack of discipline, and lack of trust in each other. Yes, we can sit here and talk about Spurs and their injuries in the back line, right? I mean, doesn't it feel to you guys like they've taken a nosedive ever since that game last season at this stadium, right? Because remember, up until then, if I remember correctly, they were by far the best defense in the league. And ever since then, for the rest of the season, and now we're seeing what we're seeing. Decision making today, it reeks of panic from Ange, doesn't it? I mean, and I know it may be easy to say, but the facts are facts. I mean, Van de Ven and Romero got rushed in, which I think surprised us all. There you go. Off they go, right? I mean, Dragoshin is not the worst. I'm not saying he's the best, but he's healthy. He's been playing. At the very least, you kind of keep one player constant in the center of defense and take the risk with either Van de Ven or Romero, right? So it's a little bit different. Some will say coincidence, but is it? I mean, he's an experienced manager right now, and every decision mattered, by the way. Every little decision. You look at Kulusevski coming off. I don't care that maybe, Madison came in and actually looked good, but Kulu is by far the best player, if not the most consistent player. And in that game, he was quite good, not just scoring goal, but he was very good. And look at the decisions on the other side, right, from Maresca. At halftime, Lavia played well, and you say to yourself, really? He's off? But you can't take Enzo off because you need creativity, right? He scores a goal, and he's been wonderful in the last 4 games. And yet Gusto allows you to do a lot more going forward when you're chasing the game, right, than having Caicedo at right back. So every decision that was made on the Chelsea side paid dividends.
It was a perfect storm, LME, wasn't it? Because Spurs started the game like Spurs, and then they went into Spurs, and they were up against Chelsea, who are flying right now. And it was interesting watching the respective TV coverage at halftime, and I think it was Gary Neville on NBC was saying, hey, Chelsea could win this. It wasn't Chelsea could get back into this. It was Chelsea could win it. And then Sky in the UK, they were saying the same as well. So it was obvious at that stage, having got a goal in Sancho, that Chelsea were very much in this. And as Janusz and you were both saying, every time they came forward, they looked like they were going to score. So as much as you can have a go, deservedly so, at the game management from Spurs, and yes, they lost their 2 centre-backs, but there was a lot of naivety from a home side compared with this perfect storm of good, really good opposition that are very clinical. And there's a lad called Cole Palmer, who's not too bad as well. What did you make of the way that he led by example, LME, in the second half?
Well, I mean, he is phenomenal. Directly involved in 38 Premier League goals in 2024, the most in a calendar year by a Chelsea player in competition history. You know, the stats are being overflown by our producers right now of just how influential, impactful he is. But let me just begin with Maresca from halftime outcoached Postecoglou overwhelmingly so. I think that, as Janusz was talking about it, I'm just going to echo that. When Malo Gusto came in, Chelsea expanded that pitch. So Jadon Sancho went so far wide on the left, Gusto on the right, and then which allowed Cucurella actually to become even a little bit higher up. Moises Caicedo finally, went back in the midfield, meaning that Chelsea, for the majority of that second half, had about 70% possession, creating more threats, and allowing now Cole Palmer to do his thing. And this is the great thing about Cole Palmer. It's like he doesn't need to score. He's just creating chances over and over and over and over again for people. His goals were incredible. His contributions, the one specifically to Enzo Fernandez, to take the lead. The Panenka kind of says it all in terms of his confidence and where Chelsea's going. And it's no coincidence that this Chelsea side, only Barcelona has scored more goals than Chelsea in top major European competitions. They're undefeated since October 20th. They've won 4 straight in the Premier League. And all of this, right? Cole Palmer, the individual talent, but it's because Maresca knows exactly what he's doing with this massive roster. Fair credit to him. And like you said, we're going to be able to criticize, as we do, Postecoglou and their Tottenham, but Chelsea from halftime really adequately took advantage. It was a really good second half performance. And it's just blossoming all that confidence from every Chelsea player, led, of course, by the wonderfully talented Cole Palmer.
Well, LME's just said that, Janusz, he's just said that Maresca outcoached Postecoglou for large chunks of that game, and I think he's described it well, because we saw Cucurella like, what are you doing there? But it was basically, he didn't need to defend. He got forward as an extra body, and they couldn't deal with it. They were unable, Spurs, to stem the flow, to plug the leaks in that second half. What could Ange Postecoglou have done? Maybe not so much at 2-0, because they were back at 2-1 pretty soon after that, but it stayed 2-1 for the rest of the half. But Spurs were still open. What could he have done at that stage before he was outcoached in the second half to give Spurs more of a chance today?
I think, if anything, whatever his messaging was, which I'm sure he said that. I mean, it's not like we know it and he doesn't know it. But this game needed managing within, on the pitch. That's what I said. When you 2-0 up like this, in a situation like this, right? Even though you're at home, even though you play in a big derby, because as we've seen from the behavior, even in the stands, I mean, this is a big game, a very important game. There was no managing. You get ahead at 2-0, and it needed a leader on the pitch, and there was no leader on the pitch, right? I mean, even going deeper into this game, I mean, could you have committed 2 worse penalties possibly in the world like today? I mean, you couldn't manage it if you tried to, right? I mean, no questions asked, silly, stupid, whatever you want to call it within the game, but somebody that would change the tempo, because the best teams do that, right? The best teams know when to go for a kill. And okay, you can say to yourself, it's 2-0, what was it, 12, 13 minutes, it's still the entire game to play, right? So yeah, you try maybe for the third when you see that it's swinging a little bit, and it did, because by the way, that game swung with that goal from Jadon Sancho, right? And then remember what happened after that? I mean, Chelsea could have been ahead in the first half, right? I mean, remember Cole Palmer whiffed on that cutback. I can't remember who cut it back. Maybe Enzo, actually. I mean, that's 100% goal. He just didn't hit the ball. I mean, whiffed on it, right? Then Forster has 2 unbelievable saves on Palmer and Neto, maybe the one on Neto even more. And then there was that 1-2 with Jadon Sancho and Cucurella, which he saved. I don't know how, because there was a deflection on the way in, right? So, I mean, within all of that, on that pitch, you have to, somebody out there's got to say to themselves, well, we need to slow this game down. This is a massive pitch. I don't know the dimensions. I was going to check and I forgot. It seems like Wembley. Every time I watch the game at Wembley, it seems to me that those pitches are 3 times as big as any other in the world, right? And even if it isn't, you could see how switched it was. The comments even in the game were, my goodness, there's no midfield. There's just so much space for everybody to get it. So if anything, I probably would have introduced. I mean, if you're going to make a change, because there's not much on that bench that absolutely changes everything for Spurs. But James Maddison probably with instructions much quicker, just say, listen, you got to change the tempo, get the ball, stand on it, couple circles. We're 2-0 up. That's the only way I see it, because it was as naive as a performance can get.
Just 4 points now between Liverpool and Chelsea in second place, albeit Chelsea have played a game more. And I want to go back to something we did earlier, LME, when we gave our reaction to Fulham against Arsenal. And it's to do with the striker, because today, Nicholas Jackson played, but he didn't get an assist, didn't get a goal. Chelsea still scored 4. Yet we're talking about Arsenal's need for someone to put the ball in the back of the net. So what does it tell you about what Enzo Maresca has done with this Chelsea side? Obviously, he's got Cole Palmer. I get that. He's like the talisman, a bit like Mohamed Salah at Liverpool. But to go away from home to a tough place, to face a Spurs side that want to beat you, but you score 4, and your main man in attack is not a bystander, but he wasn't really required today.
Yeah, I think the difference is that Enzo Maresca's system is about frantic, chaotic, offensive pushing forward, whereas Arteta sometimes is more about, because we're referring to Arsenal's draw with Fulham, right? Sometimes it's more of a patient build-up going into the final third. Chelsea want to absolutely intoxicate you completely. And it's actually very direct thinking as well. When Jadon Sancho has the ball, he's got one clear thing: to either penetrate the box or play the 1-2 with somebody that's next to him. In this case, it was Echegaray a lot of the time. Pedro Neto on the other side, cut inside with his left foot. So no matter who's in the middle, because Cole Palmer also goes from right to left to center, Maresca just wants to create complete havoc. Now, having said all of that, Nico Jackson has a few goals already this season as well, which is already a tremendous thing. And Nkunku, who doesn't even start that many matches, also leads in goals for the Blues. So, there's so much goal optimization from Chelsea, and it's all because of Maresca's system. Now, it's not at the very beginning, or in some moments, it's not always going to work. But because they have so much offensive individual talent, including Noni Madueke, who we didn't even talk about today, and the fact that they don't really have to worry about Conference League in the middle because they just put a completely new team, they're so fresh for these big matches, meaning that when they go forward, they're so threatening. I mean, we talked about it from the very beginning, how much they have shocked us under Maresca, because they are an offensive Godzilla. Only Barcelona has scored more goals than them in Europe. Now, obviously, they're not going to win every single game, but it just makes up for the fact that Chelsea are an offensive fireball in the Premier League, and they're going to score from any possible angle. So really, obviously, you need a good striker. Nico Jackson has the numbers, and so does Nkunku, but they don't just rely on them. They have so many other weapons.
That's why I don't always rely on that narrative about just one striker, because the bottom line is the best teams in the world are feared, and not because of one player, right? And Enzo knows that, and it's kind of funny how it's working now. Maybe a coincidence, right? But in Manchester City, there was a time with Kun Aguero, not your true number 9, but false nines. Everybody was scoring. You get Haaland. You get the benefits of it. They've won trophies with him. That's great. And you probably continue. But now it's a little bit, he sometimes doesn't score. Everybody else is way below level at Manchester City as well, right? If I think of, Liverpool at their best, right? I mean, yes, Salah is scoring goals from a different position, not your normal, number 9, but in the past, Sadio Mane and Bobby Firmino, who never was number 9, right? When he came from Hoffenheim. So this is, I think, what Maresca does. And the one thing with Enzo Maresca is that I don't think we ever had any doubts that he was the right appointment, right? We just kind of I think we are all guilty of seeing what was happening off the pitch a little bit, all the billions spent, the 2 squads, where he was all along kind of explaining to us, no, you got it wrong. We have one team. I know what the team is. The other team trains elsewhere. I can do it. I get my arms around it. And, are they reaping the benefits? Yes, it's a progress. There's still going to be some hiccups for sure. But you know what? As we've said, they're in it. They're in it to win it. If he likes it or not. Here we are in this situation where these players, at the very least, can dream. And they can dream for free. If it works, it's going to be a story of, I don't want to say century. It's going to be a mess. If they don't, nobody says anything.
MD, I don't care what Maresca says in any presser from now on. In my opinion, on today, I think they became title contenders today. They're 4 points away from Liverpool.
They've been title contenders. Yeah, Janusz and I had this discussion on Friday, and I think he says something different to his players than what he's saying to the press. But Janusz is right. He's not getting away with keeping to say, oh, well, we'll see what happens, because now, like it or not, they are.
No, they are. They're 100 title contenders. But can I just say one thing, though, about the striker thing? Like, we need to have context here, because when you look at the top goal scorers of the Premier League so far, 2 of them in the top 10 are Chelsea players. Mm-hmm. So, it's also demanding of having clinical finishers, right? There is not one single Arsenal player in that list. Bukayo Saka has 10 assists. That's about it. My point is, when you have a system that's chaotic in nature when it comes offensively, and then you have the players that know how to finish, then you have a system. The reason why we keep saying Arsenal needs a striker, why I keep saying it, is because they don't have anybody that has like that reliance in terms of goal scoring. Chelsea have 2 in the top 10 already, thanks to a system and the individual talent that they have. They're a wonderful team. Right now they're a wonderful team to watch.
Janusz, you've spent your life being Janusz Michallik, and you've done quite well being that. But I want you to be Daniel Levy for a second. Is the thought of changing manager crossing your mind? Spurs are now 11th, and that reaction from the fans at Bournemouth was rather telling. And they were 2-0 up today, and they lost 4-2. Are you thinking about potentially already who's next?
Well, I mean, I think it's their job to always think ahead and have people identify just in case, right? That goes for players, it goes for managers, because it's not easy to get the best. But so I think they'll be doing that, but I don't know if they should, right? I mean, it's hard to say that somebody comes in and organizes this right now with the amount of injuries they have, the position that they're in, and I think we've seen enough at times from Ange. I mean, you look at Brennan Johnson. Unfortunately, he also got injured today. It looked like, I'm not sure for how long. Hopefully not long for the Spurs fans. But he's been better. Son is Son. Even that last goal, I mean, he's always going to be thereabout. I think it's important that Solanke scored his goal, because that was first in, I think, 7 games in all competitions as well. What's happening in the back, and even with the goalkeeper, right? I mean, Vicario is wonderful. So, that is an issue and bit of an excuse as well. I just think you trust in this process and you keep this going. Maybe something like we've seen with Enzo Maresca and Chelsea, where we first thought that this is going to be a 3-4 year project. Maybe something like Mikel Arteta. Remember the first 2 seasons? What was it? 8th place, both of them, and they just, I think for the most part he's a likable and well-respected figure, Ange Postecoglou, and I don't know if I would make any knee-jerk reactions, because somebody said a stat, I think might have been during the game, even with Chelsea. I mean, it never dawned on me that for Chelsea, they've only lost like three games in the last 30 Premier League games, right? I think some credit's got to go to Maurizio Pochettino, because remember, towards the end of last season, he kind of started to get Chelsea going properly and lost his job. So maybe, just maybe, a little bit of patience here with Ange, because I don't know. I wouldn't pull the trigger anytime soon.
Well, it's patience from Janusz. It's Ibrox next on Thursday against Rangers, where Ange has got a rather good record. Is it patience from you as well, LME? And are Spurs better now than they were before Ange Postecoglou took over?
Well, I'll answer your question in terms of how you originally asked Janusz if you were Daniel Levy, right? And any other executive probably would apply some kind of patience, but not Daniel Levy. I think he has a list already. I think Postecoglou is on thin ice already. Not because of today, but because of the examples that we have seen over. You can't just beat, you lose to Ipswich and then you beat Man City. You destroy Villa and then you lose against Bournemouth. And then, you're leading 2-0 against Chelsea and you stick stubborn with your philosophy, despite the fact that Coutinho Romero's out, Mikel van der Ven is not looking 100%. And once again, you lose. I'm not saying that I would fire him tomorrow. I'm saying that Daniel Levy, just knowing the experience of who he is, and there was a great camera shot today when it was 3-2, and he was pondering, and I'm telling you, he has a list he's already thinking of, because you're talking about that Rangers game, but that schedule, they're also going to play Liverpool, They have a League Cup quarterfinal as well. Like, injuries are going to happen. Let's obviously see what happens in December. But Postecoglou, in my opinion, and I agree with Janusz, he's a great man and I like him and great personality to have. But that doesn't mean that wins are going to be guaranteed because of a personality. Like, I think at the end of December, we'll see how it goes. But I think at this moment, he's walking on thin ice.
Okay, we're going to end today by playing a little game. And it's very difficult because the three of us like to talk, but I'm going to ask for just one word. Janusz, one, not two. One word to
I'll
describe.
give you 3, don't worry.
I know you will, but I'm going to try. One word to describe that game today. Janusz.
Stupid. I said it already.
You could have just said stupid. You didn't need to say I said it already. I need one word. Don't need a sentence. LME, one word to describe that game today.
Chaotic.
That'll do for me. It's Chelsea who come from 2 goals down to win it 4-3 in the end. And the gap at the top, even although they played a game more, is just 4 points between Chelsea and Liverpool. Enjoy the rest of your day, boys and girls. Bye for now.